Good morning. How are you all this morning? It's so nice to see all your faces. Thank you all so much for coming out this morning. My name is Megan Douglas, and I'm the Director of Public Programs here for the Newark Museum of Art. And we are honored as a museum to be a part of the Harriet Tubman Square Improvement Project. We've been excited about this project since its inception. We obviously are huge fans and supporters of Harriet Tubman Square, and we love utilizing that space. We love seeing our community utilize that space. And so honestly, this next phase is just, it's already been incredible, and now it's kind of the cherry on top. So we're very excited to be a part of this project. From its inception, the museum has been honored to play a role in hosting community meetings, such as the meeting we're having today, as well as welcoming the award-winning architect Nina Cook-John into our space to lead, and also Boomy, Adaboomi, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little twisted with my words this morning. The artist who led our tile making workshops here at the museum, and you'll see those tiles featured on the monument itself. So we're very excited to also play a role as we embark on this next improvement and renovation of the park. All of that to say, we're going to now begin our community meeting, and I'd like to now tee up what we will be watching, which is a short trailer for Dreamplay Media's Black Moses Rising. Some of you all might be familiar with this feature, which is about the making of the monument, and of course, as I mentioned, by award-winning architect Nina Cook-John. So we're going to now let that play.
Place and time to commemorate the amazing achievement of a Black woman.
It is our day, this moment.
It's the right place and time to commemorate the amazing achievement of a Black woman.
It is our day, this moment, this monument is about us, that in our story, Moses is a Black woman. She went and got us over and over and over again.
This monument will spark appreciation for a woman who defined courage and a humble, powerful radicalism based in the fundamental ideals of love.
This is the culmination of hundreds of years of history. Our ancestors are looking down at us today. They are smiling and they are saying thank you.
Yeah, I think we should clap for that. I know we should clap for that. Excellent. I hope that got everybody a little bit excited. And I did want to announce, and tell me, Marcy will give me a little pinch if I get this wrong, but at the end of this meeting, we will be screening the full feature. So please stay at 11 for that when we conclude the meeting. But next, what I'd like to do is bring up Marcy DePina. I think you all are familiar with Marcy, the Executive Director of Newark City Parks Foundation, and she's gonna kick off our meeting.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Megan. It's an early morning, so we really appreciate you all being here. As Megan said, I'm the Executive Director of Newark City Parks Foundation, and we manage Harriet Tubman Square, Lincoln Park, Military Park, Mulberry Commons, and Riverfront Park. So it's really a pleasure to be a part of this incredible moment where we're not only seeing the transformation of what was formerly known as Washington Park into Harriet Tubman Square, but the installation of a beautiful monument called Shadow of a Face by the award-winning architect Nina Cook-John. And now, we just had to do something because the drapes are not matching the windows. We have this beautiful monument, and the park is in serious need of renovation. So we spent some time with the City Parks Foundation really in dialogue with our community. One thing that we knew, just like the process in creating the monument was community-based, our Director of Arts and and Cultural Affairs, Fayemi Shakur, led an incredible public process in which people in our community got to have a vote on the proposals that were submitted for the monument. So we couldn't embark on the improvement of the park without following that lead and really making sure that when we thought about the park and thought about the ways in which it should be transformed and improved, that we really put the community first as the #1 stakeholder in the project. So we spent about a year reaching out to the community with small public meetings. We did a larger meeting here at the museum where people had the opportunity to reimagine what they thought was going on, what should go on in the park. And then we also did a bunch of surveys. And so I'm just going to go over a little bit of what that feedback was. So our data reported that, in looking at this, that we actually have a park that a lot of people use. So what we found was 30.5% of everybody who filled out the survey visited the square once a week or more. So it is really a park that is being used. 65% of the people are attending and regularly attend special events. So the events that are taking place in the park are receiving a large amount of people that are coming to them, and people seem to like visiting the park for events. 49% of the people use the park for relaxation. I think COVID really showed us just how important our public spaces are for our mental health, our physical and mental health. And 18% of the people use the park for exercise. As you know, or if you don't know, there aren't any traditional workout equipment that's in the park, but it's a great place to walk, run, and we also do yoga there. So in our survey, some of the key findings that we found were we really wanted to talk to people about what they'd like to see in terms of improvements and renovations. 86% of the people wanted to see seating areas. If you visited the park, you know there's no place to sit. You can walk through it, but it isn't very inviting for you to sit there and take time to stay, unless, of course, you sit on the ground, but not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody brought a blanket. So benches or seating areas was 86% of what people wanted to see. 74% of our people said that they wanted to see improved program and landscape area. Now, if you've ever gone to an event, especially if it involves dancing at Harriet Tubman Square, you know we have a gravel pit. Not very conducive for programs and especially not for dancing. Now, 40% of the people wanted to see a children's playground. And this was something that we really took into consideration because this area has been changing. Of course, we are nestled in the historic James Street Commons district. So it is a historical park and it is a central feature. But as the community changes, we have this historic neighborhood that has families that have lived there for generations. You know, we often think about the downtown as being the economic center, the business center of the city, but people live here. And there has been a massive change in the landscape here with several buildings that have gone up over the last 5 years or so and will continue to grow. So more and more people with young children are living in the neighborhood. And 36% of the folks said that they wanted to see more public art and educational elements. We hope that we started to meet the public art component with the monument Shadow of the Face. Now, other desired amenities that came to the forefront were 67% of folks wanted to see bathrooms. Again, if you've been to the park and you've had to use the bathroom, you either have to use a portable bathroom or you have to hope that the museum will let you in and use their bathroom. 56% of folks wanted to see a community garden, and 61% wanted to see food trucks or a kiosk. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of dog lovers here in the room. I see people walking their dogs all throughout the parks. 12.5%, which was a lower number than we anticipated, wanted to see a dog park as a high priority. Now, when we talked about design preferences, most people, 81%, wanted to see a modern design, but also an inclusive design that really did speak to the historical nature of the park and that preserved the historical features. So that was 73%. Found it to be something that was incredibly important, that we recognize the fact that this is a historic park as a central feature within a historic district. So that was at 73%. Then other key findings that we found throughout our surveys were accessibility. We want to make sure that this park, everybody wants to make sure that this park is accessible. That was 81%. 42% wanted to see an improved an enhancement of the ADA compliance in the pathways, ramps, and also any potential playgrounds or other features that would be added. And 73% favored a design that preserves the park as, again, a central location in the historic district. Oh, I see there's a little, I don't know what happened there, but when we talked about safety, one of the things that we noticed in the park is that it does need improved lighting. So in addition to improved infrastructure around the pathways and the landscape areas, safety and lighting was a big concern at 79%. And I really like this part. 30% of the people expressed that they wanted to be involved in the park. They wanted to be involved in the community. They wanted to take part in what was happening in the park, volunteer, and they wanted more opportunities for engagement, including what you're doing here today, being part of this public meeting, cleanup days, and planting events. So I'm going to be holding everybody to that 30%. And in conclusion, the square is in need of structural improvements, as if you've walked, again, if you've used the park at all, after it's rained, you know that it puddles. You know that the pathways need to be repaved. You know it needs improved lighting and entryways as well. And of course, the modern yet historically respectful design was top of mind to folks. Accessibility, conserving the trees in the park, safety, and again, there was a really big emphasis on the historical significance of the park in the area. And then finally, the community components. So these were our findings. We were really pleasantly surprised to see that so many people engaged in the process, and it really helped to inform the design that you'll be seeing in just a few moments. So I am now going to introduce to you our board chair for Newark City Parks Foundation. He's also the executive director for the Lincoln Park Cross-Cultural District. Cross-Cultural District, jeez. Please welcome everybody, Anthony Smith.
Good morning, everyone. Marcy called me and told me I had an assignment, so I said, okay, sure, I'll be right there. So first of all, welcome to our meeting today, and the call to action today is about volunteers. We need volunteers for all 5 parks. We have a plethora of events that take place from probably April through October, and if you're interested in being a volunteer, please see Marie in the back so she could check off your name, and we'll be in touch with you to be a volunteer. Second assignment, first I want to acknowledge, I think Council President McIver here, I see Councilwoman Roundtree. I know that Deputy Mayor Ladd is here, and I want to say thank you to you, to all of you, and also to the mayor for even thinking about creating the City Parks Foundation. We really needed that downtown, and it's making a difference to what's happening in our parks downtown. Now, my assignment is to welcome and bring up Mayor Raz J. Baraka.
Good morning. I'm sorry we're in the dark. I can't see anybody. Like we're at the movies. I'm not sure what's happening. But one, I just want to thank Marcy and the City Parks Foundation and all of the folks that are affiliated with making sure our parks are activated. There were a few things that Marcy said that are incredibly important. One, the downtown is changing, and downtowns are changing all over the country. Obviously, after COVID, things have become very different in terms of business and business community and foot traffic and people coming. Newark has had that issue for some time. We were doing some incredible things to combat that, but then COVID happened, and a lot of the businesses began to leave or not work down here all 5 days a week, sometimes even 6. So we are now trying to build more density even in the downtown area. We're doing that in the corridors, but in the downtown area as well. So you have more families downtown as well. So what our parks look like and how they're activated is going to be affected by that. So the survey speaks to some of that. People wanting child facilities or playgrounds in the park are important. Bathrooms in the park become important. More navigators in our park, more folks, making sure the parks are safe, able to have programming in a safe and secure environment becomes important, which is why we put a full-service precinct in this area. We increase patrols in the downtown community as well, but also put our homeless outreach services down here and some of our Office of Violence Prevention folks down here as well to begin to treat the downtown as a full-service community. Is incredibly important. But the park, especially Harriet Tubman Square, is an incredible legacy for us here in the city. What it's been transformed into and what it has the ability to be transformed into is very exciting. I'm excited about the grant, the monies that are being used to improve and reimagine what this park is going to be, and everybody's input and what that looks like becomes incredibly important because this is going to last us for generations prayerfully. And it's going to change the character of what we knew the park to be and what we imagined it could be in the future. This will be a park that is inviting for all of us, for people all over the city. So we just don't want to have a park that is available for visitors and people who just hang out downtown. We want to have a park for families who live in the South Ward, who take our shuttle from the library down to the downtown community to participate in the activities at the museum, at the library, and go and hang out in the park at the same time. I believe Harriet Tubman Square is an appendage of the Newark Museum. It is a part of the Newark Public Library. It is a part of this entire community in this area. And so people who come to the library should be able to be a part of the park. People who come to the museum with their children for events at the museum, like I did when I was a child, should be able to go across the street, see Harriet Tubman Square, hang out in the park, have a good time, have lunch, have dinner, whatever you want to do in the park, and shuttle yourself back to the South Ward or to the Central Ward or to the North Ward or wherever it is in the city that you come from with vans or shuttles that we provide for residents for free in the city to get back and forth downtown in our city. That's important for us because we want downtown not to be this kind of uptown versus downtown. We want people to see downtown as the central part of the city, a place where everybody convenes, where all neighborhoods get together and be a part of one giant neighborhood in our downtown and hang out in places like Harriet Tubman Square or Military Park or Lincoln Park and go to the Lincoln Park Festival and all the other things that take place there as well. So I'm excited about it, and I think what we do here will, inform what happens at the rest of the parks downtown. And as we finish Riverfront Park, as we finish doing Riverfront Park, I think that even in the end of how Riverfront Park looks and how what we do at this park here at Harriet Tubman Square, it would affect what's going to happen at Military Park, what we begin to do at Lincoln Park, which also has a grant as well. Lincoln Park is going to be doing the same kind of rethinking and reimagining as Harriet Tubman Park is. So, soon all of the parks downtown are going to be incredible meeting spaces for everybody that live down here and everybody in the city itself, and all the visitors you want to invite to come hang out with us in the parks downtown in the city of Newark. So have an incredible meeting. Hopefully they decide to turn the lights on for you guys. I appreciate you. God bless.
Thank you, Mayor Baraka. Of course, none of this would have happened without your great leadership, the transformation of the park and the transformation of the entire downtown. I want to also acknowledge that all of the parks are situated within the Arts and Education District, which is also a new initiative. Victoria Walker is at the helm. She's here with us as well. And the fact that there's now a district that encompasses and brings together the arts and education is just another great thing that's happening downtown and another reason to invite people in. So now I think is the moment folks have been waiting for, which I'd love to invite up to the stage from Edgewater Design, Jan Saitel Raphael.
Let's see here. This goes. How's that? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Pleasure to be here this morning. I just want to start out saying, and I'll repeat a lot of what was said already, but the design goals for the park were twofold. One was to maintain the integrity of the historic layout of the park. All the pathways that you see crisscrossing are there from a couple of hundred years ago, actually. All the monuments that have been placed over time, and also importantly, all the mature trees which have been talked about. We wanted to keep those, as many healthy trees in place as possible. And secondly, to respond to the desires of the community, which Marcy just talked about, all the new programming elements. So that would be, those two things would be interwoven into the design. So after careful studying of the park, you know, the physical features, we also brought in a couple of arborists that did a very detailed study of every single tree, the condition and health of the trees, because we wanted to work around those trees. So working with that, the diagonal pathways going through the park, all the monuments which are going to stay in the same places they are now. They have historic significance as to the locations, and of course the magnificent new Harriet Tubman monument, which I had the pleasure of working with Nina on. All those in place, including the new landscape. It made the new programming really fell into place as to where all these program elements should be located. So just to talk about what's going to be introduced, as was mentioned, a playground area. We're actually going to provide two playgrounds, one for younger children and one for older children, as you can see on there along Washington Place. The current crushed stone area, you referred to as gravel, I like to call it as crushed stone, will be improved with a lively new paved area to be used for a variety of events. The comfort station, which is going to be amazing, actually, for a comfort station, is really centrally located to both service the new plaza area and the playground. It's key to where that's located. And then lastly, as we talked about the green space, the landscape space, which is going to add a whole nother dimension to the park. So just to highlight, isn't this working? Sorry, highlight some of the site features, the materials. As I mentioned, I worked with Nina on the Harriet Tubman, the plaza, the hardscape around the monument, and there we introduced new materials to the park. We're going to use those materials in our new plaza, but in a different way with a new pattern. Another feature will be new landscaping. Right now, the park is very two-dimensional. It's just trees, although they're beautiful, they give a wonderful canopy to the park, and lawn. So we're going to add that third dimension of planting around the park. The landscaping will mostly be along the edges of the park, along Broad Street, and then interwoven into the plaza areas and into the playground. While we'll keep the center of the park very open, similar to the way it is now, with the trees and lawn. We're also going to add some nice walking paths through the gardens and places to sit. As mentioned, seating was requested. In addition to the gardens, we'll have seating throughout the park. So really create a green oasis in the heart of the city. Landscape will constantly be changing throughout all the seasons. Again, places to sit and really enjoy the greenery. Okay, the playground. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the playground. Again, there's going to be two different playgrounds, one for the younger children and one for the older. Both of them are kind of carved into the landscape. So we're creating these little alcove areas within each space. And each of these alcoves have different play experience, play activities. For the younger kids, we're having little climbing structures, open play areas. The kids love to run around when they're young. And also try to develop some play activities that are built into the landscape, like an arch, a planted arch that kids could run through, some stepping stones. They're also going to introduce a whole new area, and I'm going to skip over to the as you can see here, some chimes to introduce a whole new area of music into the playground. So the older children, which is an area closer to Washington Street, again, the similar kinds of play activities that are carved into these little alcoves. But for the older kids, it'll be a little bit more challenging, more climbing, more different types of climbing and sliding activity. And then this idea of music in the playground. We're going to create a whole area, which we're going to call the sound garden. Drums, chimes, all these different elements that kids can really be creative. Seating in the park will actually also be the step seating, so it'll double as a climbing activity for the children. So the idea for this playground, we wanted it really to create something unique. So what we're going to introduce is a very unique, handcrafted, durable wood play structure, which will be duplicated in both the younger kids and the older kids, have lots of different types of climbing activity within that play structure. Now, we also think this play structure is very complementary to Harriet Tubman monument using similar materials, and won't compete against it, but complement it within the park. We think you'll be able to see this unique feature anywhere, standing anywhere in the park as an identifiable piece of equipment. And then again, the idea of music in the playground. So all these things combined, we think will be a terrific fitting in this very bucolic setting. As I said, this is a kind of oasis in the heart of the city. So now I'd like to introduce again Nina. Everybody knows Nina, who's going to talk about the Comfort Station, which is a very unique piece of architecture, again, combining elements of Harriet Tubman Monument and other things we're doing in the park. So I guess you can go ahead.
Thank you, Jan. So I just wanted to talk a couple of minutes about, having seen Jan's ideas for the park, which I'm really excited about, the idea that her studio has seen the potential for what Harriet Tubman Square could be while preserving some of the kind of central characteristics of the pathways, layering it now with some really engaging plantings, and really leaning into the idea that it's in public spaces that we build community. So it's not only about our individual families being able to get out of our private spaces and into the park, but to be able to connect with our neighbors and our larger community, and this is how we strengthen community. And so the Comfort Station is a relatively small footprint within this larger park, but it really provides an important amenity of the bathrooms. So it will house really 2 family-style bathrooms in addition to some storage spaces that support the programs that are happening in the park. And what we were trying to do is respond essentially to both what we were doing materially in the monument, but also what was extending into the playground and reinforcing the wood features, which is housing beneath it really what is a simple rectangular structure. And so the wood overhang both provides some shading as people are waiting to go into either one of the bathrooms, but it also extends into some bench seating on the other side. So where you see the bench on the lower image there, it's facing that central multi-purpose area where there might be performances or other things happening. So again, as you might be waiting for the restroom. So a relatively small scale, simple addition to the park, but it can be really impactful in terms of providing either people with young children who might need the support of the restroom, or older people who might come to the park and would like to enjoy the out of doors, have access to the restroom, as well as if you come to a concert or other activity. This makes a big difference into whether you decide to go to the public spaces or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Jan. So we do want to have some time for question and answers, but before we get into that, I just wanted to let people know what the process is here. So as we've mentioned several times, this is a historic park. There's a process, the same process that we went through in building the Shadow of a Face monument is the same process that we have to go through with these improvements. So these plans are as developed as they possibly can be at this point. Now they will be, this first step was communicating with everybody who had participated in our outreach and gathering of information from the community. And our next step will be to submit these plans to the State Historic Preservation Office for review. So just a little bit about the timeline. We're hoping that we will be in construction by the end of the summer. August is what we're looking at, August, September. But there is a process, and you all are part of that process, which is one of the reasons why we're having this meeting today. So before we get into question and answer, while I still have all of your attention, I do want to point your attention to a very special moment. We are now going to be screening another one of the Dream Play shorts that came out of Black Moses Rising, and this is featuring our very own Queen Moore. It's called Auburn Eyes.
Ordinary people, like sisters and mothers, fathers, grown-up farmers and daughters. These are my people. They are all my people, being kept and unkept at the same time. Set them free. And I mean set all of them free. They are not yours. Get your fingertips off of them. A minty substance on the tips of all of their tongues. They've been wondering who and how tall, never bravely held, but held captive. Can't no grounds hold me captured. Can't no grounds hold me captured and deny me leaving. A mundane belief, the fields bear my whole name, my calling. These cornrows and sun rays, specifically on Sundays when the moon is out telling our business. These dark nights don't smell right, and for a certain, they don't smell of God. They don't smell of God. Where's the recovery in having your body and soul mishandled and handed over, deteriorating to the unknown? To tend to the mouths and the needs of all of your children, is that why I'm here? Is that why I am here? Is that why I am here? Where is the recovery when life lived like this is a tragedy, when when the stories passed down to our kin, they are only stories. And they be watching from their graves, tragedy it may be, though I am not. Quiet was our greatest secret we've known, and we've been silent, screaming out loud, looking for remnants of our people. Can't keep up in the fabric in the trees where we swung high in the noon where we've lived. So give me a reason to stay. Give me a reason to stay when my life ain't in question, and free me. Free me and get me out of here. Let me walk my own road, gravel and stone beneath me, not grounded bone and blood that watered and fertilized your fruit. We stood and laid in our own blood for too long. There's no words of wisdom, just pain and hurt, and we tired of that. So, again, tell me why I am here. They got my kin, and I mean all of them, separated by tribe and handed off into tribulation. And we've been avoiding the moon. As she points us out as we run, there's no way to not die in vain. The rustling of fate and feathers and leaves, splicing your toes, feet first in a rushing river. Some will truly fall behind, but not on my time, not on Minty's time. This is what I'll tell them. Your eyes still spy a bit of Auburn up close, even as they're searching for you. Their dogs hounding your flesh, tearing at you. How you gonna get by on fear? Fires will be lit as bright as the eyes of our babies, and what we gonna tell them? When they're wailing notes of afraid, we rock them close and back to sleep, and if their eyes happen to open when freedom is calling and demanding its respective time, they will have to see an unfortunate event of truth. A tougher skin wrapped around the ageless trees that swallowed up our blood and all of its roots. It's time. It's time for us to leave here. It's time for all of us to leave here, to set our spirits loose wildly, to follow the sky and all of its stars, to fight forever, till our hands go numb from holding the butt of my gun and my folks folded neatly under my bosom. I gotta get my people, I gotta let my people know what's left of all of my people, begging for a stitch of freedom. They are who I will die for. They and their children and their folks and their children and their children and them. I'll die. Dressed in mud, feverishly bound to return, ready to return. But I promise, I will return.
Thank you. We have the artists here with us. Queen, just raise your hand. Say hi to everybody. And thanks again to Dream Play Media for allowing us to use their videos today. So now we want to open things up for question and answer. But before we do that, I just want to let you all know we do have some upcoming events while I have your attention again. We selected a few that are happening in 5 parks. There's more save the dates that are out in front. Marie also has sign-in sheets for volunteers. So again, another plug for volunteers. But coming up on April 22nd, the Office of Sustainability is going to be hosting a cipher, an Earth Day cipher at Mulberry Commons on April 22nd. We have Steam Around the Square right here across the street at Harriet Tubman Square on May 11th. And we have our very first annual Newark Fitness Festival. We are so excited about this. Yes, thank you. Our team, yes, please do. Our team is really excited. We're going to have pickleball. We are going to have kickball teams. So I expect all of you to get a team, and it'll be friendly tournament, a friendly competition. We'll have basketball. We have calisthenics, yoga, meditation. Harriet Tubman Square will have dance lessons. It's happening in all 5 of our parks, but it kicks off on May 31st with a big dance party. We'll have line dancing and African dance and music, because everybody's favorite way of working out is dance, right? Okay, so that's gonna be May 31st through June 2nd. And River Day will be taking place at Riverfront Park on June 22nd. That's the opening day at Riverfront Park. And of course, the Lincoln Park Music Festival. It's actually happening over 2 weekends, but the big kickoff weekend is July 25th through the 28th. Gospel, R&B, house music, hip hop, all the things. So you all know exactly where that is taking place, because on that weekend, all roads lead to Lincoln Park. So now we're going to open up for question and answers. So we have 2 microphones there. If anybody has any questions, we have both of our designers here. I believe the mayor has left. I know he had another commitment. So hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions that folks might have.
Hi.
Hello.
I know you said the project you're expected to begin August. What's the duration of the project timeline?
That's a really good question. I'm going to defer to Jan for an answer that construction is always tricky. I hate to even say, oh, it's going to be 6 months or a year, because I've seen the Riverfront project, for example, go on for a lot longer. But if Jan, what would you say if you'd like to answer?
I think, yeah, 6 months. I mean, it's got to be a range because we deal with weather-related issues, going through, but I would say probably 6 months to a year. Also, there may be lead times on materials, that we hopefully can get in a timely manner, but I like to say a year, to put it safely.
So by next summer, you'll be dancing on a brand new program area.
Hi there, Linda Morgan from RBH Group and a lover of parks in Newark. I wanted to commend you all on a fantastic plan that was very responsive to earlier comments made when you had a first plan produced, particularly saving the trees, creating space for kids, keeping it green and landscaped, and germane to all the people who live here, respecting the local history at the same time. So congratulations. One question that came up at the earlier presentation about a year ago was whether or not the city would ever consider closing off one of the streets in front of, it'll probably be Washington Street on weekends to help support some of the events that you might do in the park. So the question is really, is there enough room in the park for the kinds of events that are planned, or would it also be helpful to maybe do some street closings on certain weekends to enhance the ability for everybody to have a walkable connection to the local amenities, cultural institutions that are here, and to the park itself?
That's a great question. One of the things that came out of all the community engagement that we did was that people that live in this neighborhood don't want to see huge, large-scale, massive events that disrupt the community or cause excessive noise. Once in a while is okay, but they didn't want to see ongoing. So in our planning and programming, we've tried to be as respectful of that while at the same time, of course, utilizing the space. But to fully answer your question, there have been times where we have closed off Washington Street, which is just between the street that's between the museum and the park. So for example, community days that take place here at the museum, there are times where we'll close off the street so that there can be, a safe crossing between the park and the museum. In addition, we have the North to Shore Festival that's coming up at the end of July, and the showcase stage will be taking place at Harriet Tubman Square on July 29th and 30th. And for that event, because that is a large-scale event, Halsey Festival will also be taking place on Halsey Fest on that Saturday. So we'll be closing off Washington Place, which is on the connector between Halsey Street, at the end of Halsey Street, and the park. So it really is case by case, but certainly a consideration, especially when we're thinking about the safety of people. And we also did it when we did Dia de los Muertos as well last year. So it's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but we do try to be as respectful as possible of the neighborhood, of people that live here, and be mindful also of public safety concerns around traffic flow and things of that nature. So it's something that we dialogue with the Newark Police Department and the Permits Department at City Hall as well. Hi, good morning.
Thank you for your great presentation. So I just had a couple of questions. The first was, what is the maintenance plan for the monuments that are currently in the park? Like, is there going to be a grant to kind of clean up those monuments, clean up their information about the monuments, et cetera, because we have some really interesting monuments.
That's an understatement.
But it would be great to make sure that there's a plan to clean up those up, as well as fixing the flagpoles too.
Yes.
So I just want to know first, what's the plan for that? And then the second, and I guess this might be a question of signage, is how to make sure that in the park, we're still making sure that folks are aware that the museum and the library are also, cultural assets around the park. Because even though people, and I've seen this millions of times, can be standing in front of the museum or the library, they may not know it's there. So I think it's also important to reinforce the other cultural institutions that are there, so that folks will know, oh, when I'm here, oh, I'm across the street from the museum. Oh, I'm across the street from the library. So I guess that's a comment. And then I guess my third question, so I guess I probably only have two questions. One of the cleaning management for the monuments. The third one would be, so what is the idea around maintenance in the park? So, for example, will the restrooms be open from 8 to 10? Or what are you all thinking as far as that? Because, I'm not always sure, when the restrooms are open, like I say at Mulberry Commons, et cetera. And, just the maintenance at, even the flags that are in the park, and I have no allegiance to any flag, but I'm just talking at all for any country on this planet. But just as far as maintenance, what's the maintenance plan for the park? So just the monuments and the maintenance plan, and then I guess the signage.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Great questions. So in terms of the signage, we have contracted with a wayfinding company that is going to work with the design team to create signage that will not only talk about the history of the park and the transformation of the park, but also, to your point, Noel, talk about the surrounding area, the historic James Street Commons district, and what is also in the park, and around the park. And in addition to that, it's not included in the signage, but one of the things that the Parks Foundation is working on is summer employees that will be ambassadors in our parks, so that there will be a presence in the parks to also, because you're right, people oftentimes, whether we're talking about Harriet, Tubman now, but it's the case in all of the parks. They're in the park, but they're not necessarily aware of what else is taking place around it. So one of the things that we as the Parks Foundation have been thinking about for the last couple of years is how do we create a team that can take advantage of the fact that people are in the park, right? And what else is going on? What stores can they shop at? Where can they eat? What other institutions are around? Can they go see a show someplace? So that's also in the works. Around maintenance. So maintenance in terms of the bathrooms has always been a little tricky. We have bathrooms also at Mulberry Commons, as you mentioned, and Military Park as well. Having bathrooms open full-time, Monday through Sunday requires staffing. It does require staffing, and as everybody in this room, I'm sure, is well aware, having a full-time staff to man bathrooms is pretty costly. So we haven't had our bathrooms open regularly on a daily basis. They're typically open during events, but that's also something that we're working on. So the bathrooms will absolutely be open during events, and we'll continue to work on building capacity for larger staffing. And to your point on maintenance of the features that are in the park, that is also something that we're aware of that needs to be done. We've removed graffiti. Unfortunately, the Seth Boyden monument was vandalized, and we did remove the graffiti, but it hasn't come fully off. But that is also part of the plan and something that we are considering, and making sure that as we look at the full maintenance plan for the entire park, that those things will be considered as well. I hope I answered all of your questions.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Look, I'm just going to wait and see and try to be a part of the process.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I also have 3 questions.
I need a pen.
Pretty quick, hopefully. Well, I'll start where you left off with the bathrooms. Will there be provision for more ladies' rooms and undesignated?
Well, the bathrooms there's just 2 bathrooms, and they're family bathrooms, so that means that they're open to all. We don't have them designated as a women's bathroom or a man's bathroom. They're all gender bathrooms, and they all have baby changing stations in them, so they're family bathrooms so that anybody can use them. We all have been at an event where there's a long line for the women's bathroom and there's no line for the men's. Yeah, we're trying to avoid that by making the bathrooms for all.
Thank you for that. Again, with the facility that's housing the bathrooms or anywhere else in the park, is there any thought to a provision for like a movie screen for movie nights for educational purposes?
So we do movies in the park, although we haven't had one at Harriet Tubman in quite some time. But we do typically do movies. There's movies at, they've been at Military, Mulberry, Lincoln Park, and Riverfront Park. And we have been talking about doing something here at Harriet Tubman, but not with a permanent screen. That's something that we would rent and have somebody come in and set up the screen as a temporary screen and then take it down.
Okay, I was thinking you could project on the bathroom building.
That's a great idea.
Okay, my last question has to do with the community gardens.
Yes.
If you could speak a little more about that, and would there be provision for growing some food?
Well, we don't have community gardens. That was one of the things that people did. There were a few things that people wanted to see in the park, like you saw that 12.5% of the people wanted to see a dog park. We didn't have the space for a dog park. Sorry for the dog lovers there, or not. So we weren't able to, address what everybody wanted. It's just not possible. It's not that big of a park. So we prioritized what was most important or what had the strongest responses. So we won't have community gardens in the way that maybe some people wanted to see them, an opportunity to grow food, to be able to work together, but we will have improved landscaping. So there'll be a lot more plantings in the park. It'll be a lot greener. There'll be opportunities for sort of meditation, through a walking path that meanders through a landscaped, lush area. But there won't be community gardens in the way that people will be able to grow food or plant there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, just to remember that there's a lot of shade in the park with all the trees, which
Well, those
so we want to keep it
on the outskirts, so just
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Thank you for the great presentations. And my colleague over there asked 99% of the questions that I wanted to know about maintenance, but there's one item that was not mentioned, and that's the presence of food trucks.
Yes.
And they generally generate quite a lot of trash, and also many of them don't use compostable materials. So is there any plan for containment of that if food trucks are allowed?
Wow, well, that's a really interesting idea, compostable, and something that we should definitely consider. Typically, when we have food in the park, we do have food trucks. Because of the setup of the park, they typically are along Washington Street. So the permits that we issue to people when they vend in the park and have food is that they have to take their own trash. We also have a maintenance company that does all of our maintenance, and Noel, to your point, you were talking about larger maintenance. We have a company that we work with. We also work with the Department of Public Works, but we have a private company called CDS that does all of our maintenance in the parks. So when we have events, they're on site to make sure that the event is cleaned up immediately. We don't want to leave trash overnight. It invites in, critters that we don't want to see. So we typically have them clean up events right away. And it is part of the permit process that you must bring your own trash receptacle and take your own trash if you are a food truck vendor. But I like the idea of compostable. It's a great idea that we should work with the Office of Sustainability on and see if there's not a way for us to make the trash collection more sustainable.
Could be made a requirement for specific events.
Great idea. You volunteering?
What, to create these compostable things or to
Yeah, that's a great
convince them
idea.
to use them?
I love that.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lana. I'm a resident, and mother of a young child, so I'm just thrilled to see building of parks and playgrounds for young kids. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And thank you to everyone who put in so much effort into this reimagining of the park. I just wanted to know if the redo of the park is committed to keeping all of the trees there, all of the historical trees, or if there will be any removal of those beautiful 100-plus-year-old trees. Thank you.
Yep, great question. The trees were a hot topic. We definitely spent a lot of time. I think we did 3 total surveys of the trees. We worked with the city's Office of Sustainability, and then we had a private tree surveyor come in and take a look. Not all of the trees are healthy. So all of the trees that are healthy will remain. In fact, Jan and Edgewater did a fantastic job in actually designing around all of the trees. So as you saw from the plan, nothing that's happening in the park is representing any major structural change. And that's for 2 reasons. Number one, there were the trees, and number 2, the pathways and monument placings are historic. So in keeping with the historic nature of the park, there couldn't be this massive redo of the park without having to go through the process of having that changed. So to answer your question, all of the healthy trees will remain. There are several dead trees and diseased trees, which of course need to come down because they will infect other trees. And we will publish the tree survey on our website so that everybody can have access to it and can see. But the park has been completely designed around all the healthy trees. And I think the total number of unhealthy trees, I don't have the number right off the top of my head, but they will all be replaced. So there, any tree that's coming down, there's going to be, additional planting that will make up for it.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I live
Sarah.
right down the street. Really excited about these plans as well. I'm curious with the landscaping and the gardens, if any attention and what attention's being given to like planting native and local plants.
Yes, and yes. That's how we always start, with a plant palette that is focused on native plants. And I have a lot of experience doing public landscape, so we also want plants that are very durable and hardy. So, but we start with our natives, and then some adaptable, some, that are, nothing will be invasive, but mostly will be native plants.
Good morning.
Hello. My name is Richard Baldwin, and I'm with popmusic.net. We create music and produce musical events. Our concern is that, is there going to be a designated area for music performances, theatrical performances, both during the daytime and the evening, that makes it really easy for artists based in Newark to utilize the park, right? And I mean, with adequate stage and lighting to makes it really simple to come in and produce and present an event. The other concern is that the history of James Street area, before it was designated as a historical area, it was the residency for artists, musicians, poets, etc. And now that footprint, as Rutgers expanded its footprint, it moved into the James Street area, acquired some of the townhouses, and displaced the artists, the original artists who occupied that. I noticed that most of the emphasis is on that James Street area, but are you going to be expanding beyond the historical James Street area to include the residents that live in the area of Locke Street, Sussex Avenue? That's our concern.
Thank you. I can't speak to the larger area in terms of the historic district, if that will be expanding. That's a little bit outside of the work that we do, but certainly a consideration. I always love hearing Mr. Baldwin, you talk about the community that existed here before and the artistic community that was here. I think that, one of the things that we've talked about a lot, and it was part of the surveying as well, is that people do want to see more art and culture in the parks. And certainly the monument, as a key feature now within Harriet Tubman, really up-leveled, right? It up-leveled the art that's in the park. It actually gave us a lot to think about. And certainly the comfort station in the playground will also be beautifully designed and artistic in nature. And that's just speaking in terms of the structure of the park. I just wanted to point out the new plaza, which will replace, I'm sorry, you called it crushed stone, Jan. That sounds much better than gravel pit. I call it the gravel pit. That is going to be an area that will be programmable for art, for theater, for musical performances. It was a big, big consideration for us as the Parks Foundation and for the city as well when thinking about the types of events that we can host. We've hosted a lot of events in the parks, and it's really difficult without having an appropriate area to do so. So this area will have some seating, the level stone that will be there, and the design of it will be very welcoming and will lend itself to a program space. It's going to feel like a place where you would want to go and view and participate in a performance or dance, because that's another thing. Even having like a DJ party was very difficult. And I think that was all of your questions, right? Okay. Yes, come please.
Hello, my name is Michelle Black. Hi everyone.
Good morning.
Love the design. So I'm a local artist and a soon-to-be Newark resident. And yeah, almost closing. But since we're I wasn't gonna ask, but since we're asking for art spaces, I've done like a temporary mural in the park where I get to interact with, make art alongside local residents and artists. And I was, wondering if, we could put some money in the budget for like spaces where we can make paintings and maybe have kids come along and interact with local artists, or local artists could just gather and make stuff. So if we could, because not all of us always have a studio or are frequently invited into galleries and stuff like that. And I think as an artist, one of the things I enjoy is just interacting with other artists without the pressures of having to sell anything or being like a show or anything, just somewhere where we can gather and spill paint and make stuff.
Spill paint, but not on the brand new program area. We don't want that to happen. I mean, okay, we've got a lot of great volunteers in here, all these great ideas. I want to see you guys, right. Yes, certainly, Michelle. Art is really important for this foundation. It's important to the city. We're a city of the arts, as I mentioned previously. We are nestled in between the Arts and Education District. So art is at the forefront of all of our minds. It's at the forefront of our conversations. It's an economic driver in this city. And certainly, we continue to partner with the Arts and Cultural Affairs Department, with Newark Arts. So creating opportunities for artists, paying artists, is a big part of what we do. It really is important to us. And we're talking about Harriet Tubman again, but there's 5 parks. So within all 5 of the parks, there's art happening. I love your idea of community paints and giving artists sort of a no pressure opportunity to come out, interact with nature, interact with one another, and do a freestyle community paint. That's certainly something that we can do and we'd love to do. And I think we're doing something like that with you. Aha! So another plug, come on out. That's going to be during Newark Arts Festival. And also on Juneteenth, we're going to have Michelle Black. He's going to do a community paint right here at Harriet Tubman Square. So lots of opportunities to program. If anybody here has ideas, we want to stay in contact with you all. There's a sign-in sheet in the front if you're not already on our newsletter mailing list. Please do sign up. You can follow us at Newark City Parks on all social media. But we're very open to creating with the community. That is the point. This is the mayor's vision. These parks are your spaces. This is your downtown. There was a quote that was said to me that I think I say every time I have an opportunity to speak in front of people, and it's that the downtown is where the city meets itself. And I think it speaks really, really strongly to what happens when we have events downtown. The whole city joins. And, I've heard people say things like, wow, I haven't been downtown in 10 years. Who knew this was happening? And when you have a world-class park with a world-class designer, and you have a museum that's the #1 museum in the state of New Jersey, one of the best in the country, a beautiful public library, and so many other amenities around the park, and not to mention another park, another historic park just down the street. There's many, many reasons for people to come downtown and be a part of what's happening in the downtown area, and certainly with the parks. So I encourage you all to get involved, to be a part of what's taking place. If you have any feedback, please do email us. You can email us at info@NewarkCityParks. We'll go to that page so you guys can see it. There we go. Okay, you can email us at info@NewarkCityParks. The volunteer email is volunteer@NewarkCityParks.org. And that's our website and our social media. But again, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you to Nina Cook-John, to Jan Seitel Raphael from Edgewater Design, to the Newark Museum of Art for hosting us, and for all of you all for being here so bright and early on a Saturday morning to take part of this. And of course, thank you to Queen Moore for that beautiful, beautiful poetry. And we're now going to screen Black Moses Rising. And this is a short, it's about 20 minutes, that was created by Dream Play Media, and it documents the creation of Shadow of the Face of the Harriet Tubman Monument. And thank you again to our board chair, Anthony Smith. Okay, Imani, can you take it away, please? Thank you all.